All right. Welcome to another episode of the MMA Fight Game Podcast. I am definitely super excited to finally get this athlete on the call to chat because obviously you guys all know that we are close with Jonathan Piersma, Nat Kava, a lot of the Western New York MMA guys. Everything I kept hearing is Liam Anderson. He's a stud. He's going to go to the UFC. And I wasn't familiar, which is my apologies. So I started digging around about him, trying to figure out what's going on. Not even to boast a 6-2 professional record. Obviously, he's on a 4-fight win streak, two KOs, two submissions, right, Liam?
4 submissions.
Four submissions. Well, I'm talking in your last 4.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
last 4.
2 submissions and 2 knockouts. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. He's also trained. There's some OGs in this town, in this area. Obviously, you have Jacob Bone from Bone MMA. You have Casey Lamb from Synthesis Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Martial Arts. But then you also have the boys over at Empire Academy and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in Chris Herzog and Wally McDonald. And another fun fact, Liam Anderson also went to my high school. He's a Webster Schrader graduate where life is worth living. Same with AJ Ariosa, who is also, funny thing is his manager. Liam is coming off a massive win, highlight reel knockout at this past weekend's LFA 177. Liam, I truly appreciate the time. I'm glad I finally got you. How are you, bud?
Doing good. I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. You know, going back as I introed you, that's all I heard about. You know, I was during your fight at LFA 177, I was texting John Piersma back and forth, and he says that you are one of the guys that gives him his toughest rounds. Obviously, you know, John is on the same trajectory as you to go to the UFC, PFL, one of those upper echelon mixed martial arts promotion. Hearing something like that from somebody like John, what does that mean to you?
Means a lot. I mean, the same goes for him. It's like he's my toughest rounds when I go with him. And MMA sparring, that guy is a tank. I mean, it's no secret. Once he grabs a hold of you,
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to get away after that. You know, I mean, you got to do some work to get back up to your feet. And if you don't, he just slowly starts just you know just starts taking the life out of you, and then he's inching his way towards mount or whatever, or a crucifix like he did in his last fight where he got that elbow TKO with from crucifix. So working with him is great. We're kind of like, he's my antithesis. We're just like opposite styles. Uh, he's the guy who wants to get me down the ground, and I'm the guy that wants to stay on the feet. So we really work off of each other really well when it comes to training.
Now, I know you're not supposed to talk about what happens in the gym, but since I'm asking you, have you the word on the street is once he gets you in his guillotine, it's a wrap. Have you been in that guillotine?
Yes, I've been in that guillotine. It makes you think twice about shooting. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I want to work my takedowns today, and I shoot a takedown. And if your head's on the outside, he's going to wrap it up no matter who's doing it to him. So his guillotine is nasty.
Yeah, I love it. And before we get into LFA 177 and all that, talk to me, like, obviously you grew up in Webster, New York, my hometown as well. You went to Webster Schrader. You said you wrestled when we were offline. You said you wrestled from 7th grade to your senior year. Did you play any other sports or anything else like that?
I mean, I played football and I played lacrosse in middle school. And then I was just playing around, seeing what I liked. And then, once I got to high school, I realized that I didn't like either of those things, lacrosse or football. So I decided to wrestle. And to be honest with you, I didn't like wrestling either. I did not like wrestling. But I knew what I wanted to do. Uh, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to fight. Even back like in 7th grade, I was just like, I want to be able to fight, become a professional fighter. I don't like wrestling, but I know I need it for that. So that's why I stuck around.
Did you have any guidance or any leadership? My girlfriend and I have this discussion. I wish I would have done this if I had the guidance and the leadership. did you have any like guidance or anybody kind of steering you towards that mixed martial arts path when you were in high school?
No one, no one. It was just something that I dreamt up on my own. I remember sitting in class one day and my friend was sitting in front of me and it was English class and he was just like, "You watch these fights this weekend?" And I was like, what fights? The UFC fights." I go, what is the UFC?" He goes, "You don't know what the UFC is?" Like, "Nah, I don't know what that is." And
Yeah.
he told me about, Leona Machida and Rashad Evans. That was the fight that happened. And then I went home and I watched UFC Unleashed and I saw Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture too. And I saw Chuck Liddell knock out Randy Couture, and I was like, holy shit, this is what I wanted to do. Before that, I wanted to go to the Marines, and for my whole life, from like when I was like 7 years old all the way till that point, I wanted to be in the Marines. But then, even before that, I was so interested in martial arts, and I didn't know that like you could put them all together. And I was like, oh my God, this is a sport. And right away, I was like, that's what I want to do. So that was my own decision, no other guidance but myself.
That's awesome. How did you find the goats? I obviously people watching, there obviously you have Synthesis, you have Empire Academy, you even have John Farrar where Jacob Bone first started. How did you find Chris and Wally over at Empire?
So originally, I my senior year, um, I realized that I wasn't going to go to school, that I wasn't going to wrestle in college, that the only reason why I wanted to do that anyways was to wrestle so I could get better at that for MMA. But then I would realize that's kind of stupid. I'll just go and join an MMA gym. So I went to my first MMA gym when I was 18, and I walked in the door, and my modified wrestling coach in middle school was at the front desk. He owned the gym. His name's Kai Malone. So that worked out for me. So I trained there from 18 to 22.
Yep, I know
And
Kyle and
then,
Rex.
yeah, Kyle and Rex, they owned Elite. And that's where I trained. And then that place kind of, closed down. So I made the move over to Empire. And I'd sparred at Empire like once when I was like 19. I got my ass kicked. And then I had like revenge on my mind for like 3 years from that one sparring session. And then when finally Elite closed down, I went straight to Empire. So I've been training in Empire since I was 22. So that's been like 7 years now.
Yeah, and what has Wally and Chris meant to you as coaches and mentors, and getting you to where you were leading up to last Friday at LFA 177?
They mean everything to me. I mean, they always give me the time of day, no matter what kind of stupid question I ask. They always have an answer for it. Um, they're just always looking out for me, and they they just they just put their time and effort into me to make me a better fighter, and that's all I've ever wanted. And they do that for me, and it means the world to me.
Yeah, I've always heard really good, positive things about those guys. I've been around them a long time since, the days back when we had a cage at World Gym on East Avenue in the city of Rochester, like going way, way, way back. So I've been around those guys, been to competitions and things like that. So, you're in good hands with those guys, true OGs as
Mm-hmm.
well. Obviously, you mentioned you were 29 years old, fighting out of Webster, New York.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned on the intro that you have a 4-fight win streak, 2 KOs, 2 TKOs, 2 submissions. Obviously, currently, based on Tapology rankings, you're the number 2 middleweight in New York and Pennsylvania. You're number 2 middleweight in the U.S. Northeast, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
57th out of 637 middleweights in the country. What does that mean? Seeing your rankings progressively keep climbing.
To be honest with you, that it doesn't really matter to me. It's just like what matters to me is, getting better every day, focusing on the process, and not focusing too much on the destination or an outcome, because that's just, if you keep focusing on the process, you're going to be where you want to be. So, I mean, the rankings don't really mean much to me. It's just getting better every day that excites me.
Yeah, and with the rankings, before we get into your so you fought last Friday at LFA 177. I was super excited because, like I mentioned, talking with John, talking with Kaba, talking to all those guys, they kept saying Liam Anderson, Liam Anderson. That was always, you go back to the interviews, your name is on those interviews. So I'm like, who is this kid? So I was making sure I was there, I was ready. I even marketed it out a little bit, saying, hey, be here for Liam.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, Webster, us Warriors stick together, right?
That's right.
Us Warriors stick together.
Yeah.
And obviously, being in the local community, we want to see all the guys and all the females who compete do well, because obviously we're a little bit biased to our people in our hometown. So we want to see you guys do well. Would you, after your fight at LFA, actually, I'm jumping ahead, but at LFA 177, after you won, you had a call out to Mick Maynard, the matchmakers over at the UFC,
Hmm.
and is 185 your destination? Because the guy that fought in the main event, he used to be at 185 and he dropped down to 170 and is now the 170-pound champion in Shamdakan Would
Hmm.
is 170 where you would want to fight in the dance, or no?
I would have to chop my leg off to make 170. I fought 170 when I was an amateur. I cut from 205 to 170, and
Oh
I mean, and I'm even bigger now than I was then.
my
So
God.
I won't even. I make weight at 185, and I think to myself, imagine if I had to lose another 15 pounds. I was like, there's no way that I'd be able to do that. But Shaman Khan, a funny story about that is, I was his one fight at 85 was against the guy that I was supposed to fight in LFA from in March, but I cut my toe open in sparring, and they had Shama Khan fill in as a replacement to fight the guy I was supposed to fight. And then he beat him by first round rear naked choke. And I was like, man, that guy just destroyed that guy. And I was just like, you know, I was working on my wrestling at that point. I'm like, I need to work with that guy. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
my fight in September, he fought on that card as well. And then so I got to talk to him and talk to his coach Murat. And then after my fight in September, we planned to go over there in New Jersey to train his gym. So I trained
Okay.
with Shaman Khan. I trained with Shaman Khan. I trained with Azamat Mirzakhanov, who's number last time I checked, number 13 in the world light heavyweight. Shaman Khan is like I think he's a master in sports, national Russian wrestling champion from
Oh,
Dagestan.
yeah.
And man, training with those guys was amazing. And I wasn't surprised by what he did Friday night to his opponent. He was pretty much doing that to everybody in the room, and he dominated. And hats off to the champ.
Yeah, that performance that he had against Devin Smith was definitely eye-opening, because obviously, Devin has, who somebody you mentioned in your open, Rashad Evans is his godfather. So
Mhm.
it was is there a difference? Like, obviously you said you trained with those guys in New Jersey. Is there a difference between their style of wrestling and American wrestling?
Yeah, I'd say so. Um, it's more, it's got more variety to it. Like they're just good at everything. Like he's good at like throws, foot sweeps, doubles, singles. Like traditionally an American wrestler is like double singles. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's like that kind of stuff. But they're like they got a lot of judo mixed in with their wrestling.
Okay.
And that's what's intriguing to me. I love that. And they're they're that's when it comes to takedowns. But I mean, he's just doing everything Habib was doing. Like he would take everybody down and then he'd try to get up against the cage, and then he'd get that Dagestani handcuff, and it'd just be game over. You'd be trying to get your arm out, and he'd just be pulling you back down. And you get back up, he mat return. You get back up, he mat return you, and you just be exhausted. And he just does that to everybody. And like I said, when he did that Friday night, I was not surprised. I knew that like watching that and seeing that them matched up that was going to happen.
What can you explain what the Dagestani handcuff is?
So a Dagestani handcuff is when I guess it doesn't have to necessarily be against the cage, but it happens more often against the cage when a guy's trying to get up and he posts on his elbow.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the guy brings his arm around the back. Actually, no, he takes his front hand, he grabs the guy's wrist, he brings it into his body, and then the arm around the back grabs the forearm. So now you got like a 2-on-1, and then you can break that elbow down. And then so now you got your arm, and they're laying on their arm, and then you got a free arm to punch. So you're punching them in the face, and they're trying to get back up, and then you get that 2-on-1 again and bring them back down. And then it just goes over and over and over again until the guy's exhausted. And then from there you can pass to mount. You could go for arm triangles and all sorts of stuff. So it's it's a treacherous situation to be in.
Yeah, no, it's that it looked a nasty spot for Devin, and we're close with
Yeah,
Devin and things like that. But it was a good performance. It was actually a great performance.
yeah, it was.
But yeah, let's transition to your performance now. Obviously, last Friday, LFA 177, you were fighting Maurice Morris, right?
Mhm.
In the beginning, so I was watching that fight very intently. You took some big shots. Did those shots hurt that you took?
No, they didn't even bother me. I work a lot on my neck. I use the iron neck a lot.
Okay, Joe
Strengthens the neck
Rogan
muscles
thing,
up.
right?
Definitely. So it strengthens the muscles up in your neck. And then when he clipped me, none of them really bothered me. I know he had big power, but I mean, I have this mindset that, if I get knocked down or knocked out, so be it. You know what I mean? I don't let it bother me. I just kind of accept it because that's just gonna, I mean, that's what you're signing up for. So I didn't feel it. I let the subconscious take over, and I set him up, and then I got that knockout. So yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that finishing sequence, because as soon as that happened, I sent that out to your manager, AJ Ariosa from First Round Management. Sent out to him. I sent it out to Piersma as well. Talk to me about that fight finisher, which obviously there's a lot of mixed martial arts that dream about having that highlight reel knockout. Talk to me about the setup, and then talk to me about what that meant to you.
So, watching previous fights, I know that he had been knocked out of the left switch knee of the head, and sometimes he was catching a lot of body kicks. He would even catch leg kicks. So, knowing that, I was using a lot of feints. Feints in general is just good for your game, but feints on this guy was especially good because he reacts to everything. So I knew that, like, if I feint a leg kick, he's going to try and catch it and throw a punch. So I feint the leg kick, draw a right hand reaction, move away, just keep him guessing. And then, throwing like switch kicks to the body. I threw like a right hand
Nasty.
left kick to the body. Yeah. And then I threw like a stabbing rear snap kick to the body. I
Yep.
hit him with like 3 body kicks within like 20 seconds. And I could tell they were bothering him.
All right.
And it hurt him. And then after that front snap kick to the body, I just knew he was ready to go. So then I just looked down at the body and I kicked up and got the knockout. And what it means to me is, and honestly, in that moment, I didn't feel much. Honestly, I didn't feel anything. I just was moving on to the next thing, which was the hammer fist or whatever. But it's not the first time I've had a knockout like that. I've done it in karate tournaments. I've done it in my amateur days. I had a sick left head kick knockout. I've done it in practice. It's nothing new to me. It's like me to be able to do that kind of thing. And he was just the perfect guy to do it to because of all the tendencies he had. So it was one of multiple ways I rehearsed in my mind to finish him. And honestly, it was the easiest way to finish him out of all of them. So it
Yeah,
was I was happy I got it.
yeah, it's crazy to me because you're like, if you follow mixed martial arts, so you have Alexa Grasso's finish of Valentina Shevchenko at
Mhm.
UFC 285, the rear naked choke. You have Jorge Masvidal's flying knee, where they practice that, they drilled that, they constantly. Just recently, you have Brian Ortega's finish over Yair Rodriguez, because there's video that just surfaced of him practicing that same transition, and now you say you were practicing that exact finish. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was. I was practicing in the cage even before the fight. Usually before I fight, I go in the cage and just kind of move around to rehearse what I'm going to do. And that was something that I rehearsed mentally and I did in the cage. And, it was a finish that I couldn't get out of my mind for weeks. It was in my head, but you don't want to fixate too much on one outcome, because if it doesn't happen, then now what, So I had to think of multiple different ways I could finish this man. And, um, like I said, that was actually the one that was the easiest way to finish him. And in terms of what was going to be open, and it just happened to be.
And it's in a massive spot. I've been going to fights at Senecaniagaracasino like for a very, very long time. And that was the first time that I've ever seen tickets for resale for 4 times, 5 times, 6 times the amount, completely sold out. You're in a massive spot. Obviously, LFA is run by Ed Soares. Ed Soares is the former manager, interpreter of all the big Brazilian athletes: Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, Jose Aldo, Junior Dos Santos, all those cats. And you were in a big, big spot, and you started that night off with a bang, which was impressive. Now I want to transition to the call out. So obviously, Alan Juban talked to you, and you called out. Is that what is next? And did anything come about from that call out from the UFC?
I don't even know. I mean, I don't know. I'm like going back and forth in my head. Am I allowed to say this? But I mean, I guess it's no big deal that I've been so. Yeah, something did come from it. Right after I got back into my locker room, AJ said that he was like on the phone with Mick. He was talking to Mick, and Mick was busy with the UFC Mexico card, and said he would get back to me Tuesday, and which they did. And so they told me that I'll be the first guy they call if they have somebody injured at 185, and then they'll put me on. So
Is
I
that
was like,
breaking news, Liam?
I guess it is, So that's what they told me. He didn't tell me not to tell anybody, so I guess that's what it is. And um, so I'm super excited about that. But in the meantime, we'll be looking for other people to fight, either for whoever. I mean, LFA would be great. I love fighting for LFA.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the meantime, I could get that contender series fight as well too. So like I said, I'm 6-2, 6 finishes. I was an 8-0 amateur, 8 finishes. I've had 4 in a row in a short period of time, and I'm coming off that impressive head kick knockout. And then my fight before that was pretty impressive, foot sweep to the rear naked choke. So, I don't see why they wouldn't have me on the contender series in August.
Yeah, because that's when they're filming. Are they doing? Did I hear they were doing more weeks, or is it still just 10 weeks?
I think I don't know. That'd be good if it was more, but I know it's only 10. I think it's from August, October.
And had they said anything to you about potentially getting a call to the contender series, or they just told you to stay ready and you're the first 185er?
I think that they basically told me to stay ready.
That's awesome. And that just shows that hard work pays off, and everything you're doing, all the guidance that you're getting from Wally and Chris over at Empire Academy is going well. Obviously, you have a manager. You're represented by AJ Ariosa in First Round Management. Obviously, Melky Qua. What has working with AJ, another Webster graduate, so us Webster boys stick together, what has that meant to your career?
It's been a whole lot. I've had previous managers and they just didn't really like give me the attention that I felt like I wanted. I felt like a small fish in a big pond, and with him being from Webster and we're both from the same place, I feel like he, pays a little more attention to me, and which is great. And I trust him and I trust his process as much as I trust mine. And it's been great. He's the opponents have been slightly getting better from the first one he gave me all the way up until Jay, and then it's what I always wanted. I mean, before, I remember when when I made my pro debut in 2018, I got that fight by myself, and then I got the second fight, and then it was almost like a year and a half of me trying to get fights and just could not get fights. Like even with the manager I had, I was like, what's going on? Like I'm constantly trained, but no, I'm not hearing anything. I'm hitting up promoters and matchmakers by myself, and and they're like, I'm still not getting anything. What's going on? And then freaking COVID happened, and that was that's why I'm having like this gap in my resume, is because it's like nobody's gave me fights, and then COVID happened, and then I finally got a fight in 2021, and then I had a little bit more of a gap, and then finally I linked up with AJ, and then since I've had AJ, I've been getting fights pretty consistently. So working with AJ is great.
Yeah, AJ has. We're going to be talking to AJ when this airs. We're talking on a Thursday night, but we're going to be talking to AJ, I think tomorrow. And
Cool.
obviously his story. Yeah, we talked to AJ a little while back when Robelis de Spain got signed to the UFC directly out of the Fury cage, who's fighting at
Yeah.
UFC 299, massive signing. So AJ is definitely a young gun in the
Mhm.
MMA representative stage. So I think you're truly in a good spot. Having Robelis perform, having you go in on short notice and doing something which I know you'll do. I think you're in a good
Mhm.
spot there. And then I want to talk about the sports psychology thing. We had some conversations offline about
Mhm.
sports psychology. Michael Bisping has been on records saying that it changed his mindset up tremendously. Obviously, the sports psychologist said to him, hey, this isn't you going to hang out with your boys. You're going to work. You do a job. So he's dressed the part, suit, tie, whatever, and it changed his focus all around. Can you talk to me without getting into personal details and things that you talk about? Because that's nobody's business but you and the person that you work with. What has working with a sports psychologist done to you personally and professionally as a mixed martial artist?
It was a game changer for me. I was always big into the mind, even when I was in high school, about, affirmations and visualizing and all that kind of stuff. And then somewhere along the line, it got a little murky. And then when it got murky, I realized that, I need to see somebody about this to help me kind of organize my thoughts and get through this. And then I linked up with a sports psychologist. I'll give you his name, Dr. Cypher.
Absolutely. If you
Um,
want to plug him, go right ahead.
I will. Dr. Cypher from UR Fitness, UR Medicine. He's the man. I've been working with him for since I think 2021, 2022, and he just helps me out through so much. I'm so grateful for him, and it's all the greats. I mean, not all the greats, but like GSP. I didn't know Michael Bisping saw a sports psychologist, so that's great. But
Yep.
GSP, after he lost to Matt Serra, went to go see a sports psychologist, and he said that was game changing for him. I think more guys should take advantage of that, because it's like fighting is 90% mental,
Yep.
but only like 10% of the guys work on their mental. But it's such a huge part of fighting. It's just been night and day for me since working with these guys, and I'm constantly like when I walk in the gym, I'm constantly training like it's fight day. I go in the gym like I'm fighting that day. I'm in there with laser focus, and I'm getting mental reps on being backstage at the fight without even being there. I'm there going through my mind. I do the same warm up every day. I do the same stuff every day just to get those extra reps. So when I am there backstage, I'm comfortable. What I mean? It's a lot of stuff that we do. Talk about mindset, talk about our ABCs, uh, visual, mental rehearsal, all that stuff. Breathing. It's just been night and day.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there any one takeaway that working? What's his name? Dr. Cypher?
Yeah, Dr. Craig Seifert.
Dr. Cypher. So is there anything that you could say on this call that could help other mixed martial arts? Because obviously this area is
Hmm.
booming. We have John Piersma, we
Hmm.
have Nat Kaba, we have an amateur fighter who's fighting April 5th at the Rage in the Cage. If you're around, the kid, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Mason Lewis is a rising up and comer.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yep, Mason Lewis is a stud. You have Jacob Bone from Bone MMA. He had a huge win. And then you have another kid out of Ultimate Athletics, Vinny Iannuzzo, who had a walk-off kill shot over at Combat Zone over the weekend, the day after your LFA kill shot. Is there any tips from working with Dr. Cypher that you could share with the community and the world, you can say, that might be able to help them?
One thing I have to say though is you can't forget Jake Hixenbaugh from Jacob Bones Gym in Leroy too. He's an up and comer.
Yeah, he's gonna kill me because I know his sister-in-law and I know his brother. So he's gonna kick my ass like Nate and Nick Diaz style. So Jake, I truly apologize about that. And it's like, you know, we're talking about the psychology thing. There's so many things when you're interviewing an athlete running through your head that you want to hit. I'm not trying to give you an excuse, but I apologize, Jake Hixenbaugh. We also have Jake Hixenbaugh, who is a rising athlete, who's kicking ass, who just recently won and avenged a dominant, that fight. He was pissed off. He was angry. And he subbed his guy, and it was a wrap. So, Jake, I apologize, but your boy Liam's got your back. So
that's right, Jake.
But I'm gonna send him this clip so he knows, and I'll post it because I'm humble like that. I'll put it out there. I'm good with that. But
that's fantastic.
Is there any tip though?
So, I mean, I'm thinking if you think something's wrong, maybe not even if something's wrong, why not optimize your mind? You know what I mean? It's like, why not? It's the same thing with like, you do strength and conditioning to get stronger faster. Why wouldn't you do the same thing with your mind? It doesn't have to be anything wrong with anything wrong with you. There wasn't anything wrong with me. I just wanted to do it better. There's always a better way of doing something. So I'm constantly trying. That's what my day is mostly consumed of after I'm done training. I'm just constantly thinking like, how can I get better? I'm constantly journaling. I'm constantly going through different ways and what's the best possible way to get better here. And that going to see somebody for your mind, I think is huge. So I think it benefits everybody who decides to do that for their career.
And you recommend Dr. Cypher? Is he open? Could you DM me his information, and can we put that information out if any athlete wants to get in touch with him, or if you want to check with him if he's able to take on new patients? Can we link other people up with him?
Yeah, I'll ask him if he's got any kind of openings, stuff like that. I know he's a busy man, but yeah, I'll hit him up, and then I'll see if it's good. I want to see why not, and then I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously I know the doctors are busy, or you want to keep that to yourself, but this area is completely booming with rising mixed martial arts that we just discussed. Before we wrap up this call, is there anybody that you want to thank? Any sponsors you want to plug who support you as well?
It's a long list. That's why I'm trying to go through my head, who I want to thank. I mean, I want to thank my coaches, Chris Herzog and Wally McDonald, Coach
OG.
Giles, Coach OGs, Coach Lorenzo from UR Medicine, Dr. Cypher for my mind coach. I want to thank my sponsors, Beast Customs, Drip Spa, UR Fitness, DeHond Auto and Cycle, Fetzner Collision. I want to thank my family and my friends. I want to thank my roommates who put up with my madness, and I'm just so grateful for everybody that supports me and keeps shouting me out throughout this journey to help me with helping me get to where I want to be, which is the UFC.
Yeah, is there any message that you want to send right now on the call before we go to Dana White, Mick Maynard? I know you said that you're the #1 call at 185 potential contender series bout, but is there any shout out that you want to give those boys, Hunter Campbell being another one, Sean Shelby? Is there anything that you want to say to them that you want them to know right here, right now?
Just that you won't be disappointed. When I'm in there, you won't be disappointed. I bring it every time, no matter what. You know, if I'm still breathing and I'm still conscious, I can still win. So even if I'm behind, I'm going to find a way to make it happen. And you can see my record, they're all finishes. Even when I was an amateur, there's times where I was falling back and I came back. So, you know, and with more exposure, I'll get more fans. And I I just you just won't be disappointed. So sign me, Mick.
I love it. The word on the street, I didn't know who you were until, John and those guys started talking. But you know what? You showed up. Your fight in September, I wasn't there because I was out at Noche UFC out in September. But
Nice.
I missed that fight, but I wasn't gonna miss this fight because always a constant. Everybody was saying Liam Anderson, Liam Anderson. So Mick, Dana, Sean, Hunter, sign our boy, sign the Webster, New York boy. He's going to be the first of many coming out of this area that you guys are going to be seeing out there. You're in good hands with AJ Ariosa and obviously the GOATs over at Empire Academy with Chris and Wally. But Liam, I truly appreciate the time. It took a while, but we finally got you. This will be the first of many calls I think that we have together. I truly appreciate it. Just sit tight, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.